Lesson 30, Nutrition. In this lesson we will discuss the food pyramid. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify the basic 4 food groups using the food pyramid. Describe the recommended servings for each food group and identify healthy eating guidelines based on the food pyramid. Good nutrition involves getting the right amount of nutrients from healthy foods and in the right combinations. Our bodies then use these nutrients for energy, for growth and repair of body tissues, and good nutrition is essential to health, as many diseases can be prevented or lessened by following a healthy diet. Poor nutrition, on the other hand, then can lead to reduced immunity, increased susceptibility to disease, and impaired mental and physical health. In order to help us make healthier food choices, the food pyramid was developed. And the food pyramid is made up of different shelves, and on each shelf is grouped particular foods. And all of these foods have certain nutrients in common. So, for example, on the bottom shelf, we have the breads, the cereals, and the potatoes. And these would all have similar nutrients. On the next shelf up, we have fruit and vegetables. And then we have the dairy products, including milk, cheese, and yogurt. The next shelf up then, the 4th shelf up, is the fish and meat group, which would also include meat substitutes such as nuts or seeds. Eggs are also on this shelf. And these 4 shelves are considered to be essential. These foods are the ones that are most important and should be included in our diet every day. The 5th shelf up contains fats and oils. And these foods are also essential, but in smaller quantities. And then at the very top, we have foods that are high in sugar, salt, and fat. And these are considered to be non-essential and shouldn't be included in our diet every day. And at the very most, just 1 small serving a day. So let's take a look at this food pyramid in greater detail. So the bottom shelf, the breads, the cereals, the rice, pasta, also includes breakfast cereals, potatoes. The recommended number of servings from this group every day is 6. Now 6 plus, depending on how active you are. The next group up are the fruit and vegetable group, and the recommended number of servings from this group every day is 5 plus. So in this group, 5 is considered to be a minimum requirement. We should try to get at least 5 per day. The 3rd shelf up is the dairy shelf, and this includes the milk, cheese, and yogurt. And the recommended number of servings from this group is 3 per day, but teenagers should aim to include 5 because of the additional requirements for calcium during growth spurts. The 4th shelf up is protein group, or the meat and the fish group, and the recommended servings from this are 2, and these then are the 4 essential food groups. The 5th shelf then contains fats and oils, and again, while these are essential, the requirements are very, very small. So 2 servings, and we'll look at what a serving is in the next slide. And finally then, we have at the very top of the food pyramid foods that are high in salt, sugar, and fat. And again, we're talking about keeping these types of foods to a minimum, so maximum 1 serving per day. And again, servings from this group should be very small. So cereals, breads, rice, and potatoes, we're saying 6 servings per day. If somebody is highly active, they may need up to 12 servings. And by highly active, we mean competitive sports people or people who are doing long training sessions. So where a training session lasts more than an hour and it is carried out on at least 5 days per week. Those individuals will probably need additional servings from this food group in order to supply sufficient energy to fuel their training needs. So they may need up to 12 servings. The vast majority of people only need 6. And if somebody is carrying out regular exercise for health reasons, so we're saying moderate activity of an hour or up to an hour, 5 days per week, that still only requires 6 servings from this food group. The type of carbohydrate that is found in this food group are complex carbohydrates. So while sugar is also a carbohydrate, sugar foods or foods that are high in sugar are not included on this shelf. So by complex carbohydrates, we mean carbohydrates that are high in starch. And these are foods that take longer to break down and should give us a slow release of energy. So these types of foods should make up the majority of our daily food intake because they're a primary source of energy. We should also try to choose high fibre options from this group when at all possible. So instead of choosing white bread, choose whole grain bread. Choose brown rice rather than white rice, or whole grain breakfast cereals as opposed to processed breakfast cereals or breakfast cereals that contain a lot of sugar. So there are 2 types of fibre. There's soluble fibre, which is generally found in foods such as oats is a good source, as is fruit, and the flesh of fruit in particular. So porridge would be a good source of soluble fibre. And soluble fibre is associated with lower cholesterol levels, particularly lower bad cholesterol or lower LDL levels. The other type of fibre then is insoluble fibre. And this is found in whole grains and also in the fruit and vegetables, but particularly in the skins of fruit and vegetables. So the function of insoluble fibre is that it aids digestion. It helps to keep our digestive tract healthy, and it helps to move food along the intestine, so it helps to prevent constipation. Fibre also helps to control blood sugar levels because it slows down the speed or the rate at which carbohydrate is released from food during the digestive process. So it's particularly useful for diabetics in helping to control blood sugar levels, but it's also useful for general population because it helps to sustain our energy levels so that we don't get cravings for high sugar foods. So the serving sizes are important. A slice of bread or 2 or 3 crisp breads or crackers is 1 serving. From the breakfast cereals, we're talking about 2 Weetabix or 4 dessert spoons of a low sugar flake type cereal, which would be something like cornflakes or bran flakes. 3 dessert spoons then of raw porridge or muesli, a medium potato, which is about the size that would fit into your hands, or 2 dessert spoons of mashed potato, which is quite a small amount. 3 dessert spoons of boiled rice or pasta, or a cup of sweet potato. So these are what we would consider to be a serving size. The next shelf up on the food pyramid was the fruit and vegetable group. So again, 5 servings from this group, and that would be a minimum requirement. If somebody is trying to lose weight, we would encourage them to try and fill up on this group. It helps to control hunger pangs. So these are also a good source of complex carbohydrates, so they provide us with fibre and they give us a slow release of energy. And they also are an excellent source of vitamins and minerals. So these foods can be used to substitute for cakes and biscuits as snack foods rather than filling up on high calorie, high sugar, high fat foods. Serving sizes here, so an average apple, orange or large fruit, or 2 smaller type fruits like plums or kiwis. Berries 10 to 12, which is about a small handful. Dried fruit can also be included in this group, but because dried fruit are higher in sugar, the serving size has to be much smaller. So a dessert spoon would be a serving size of something like raisins or sultanas. We can also include cooked fruit or fruit that is being tinned, but ensure that you choose fruit that's tinned in natural juice as opposed to tinned in syrup. 4 dessert spoons of cooked fruit or tinned fruit is a serving. Fruit juice can also make up one of our servings here per day, but again, serving should be small, so 100 mils, which is like half a regular glass or a small glass. Cooked vegetables, 4 dessert spoons is a serving, or a bowl of salad, and also vegetable soup, so homemade vegetable soup in particular, when you know what has gone into it. Be careful of reconstituted soups, such as powdered soups that you make up by adding water, as again these will have a lot of additional salt and preservatives added to them, so their nutritional content isn't as good. So a bowl of homemade vegetable soup would be a serving. The third shelf was the dairy group, so milk, cheese and yogurt, and 3 servings per day from this group and 5 for teenagers to give them additional calcium for growth. So calcium and vitamins, particularly D vitamins and also some B vitamins. And it's also a good source of fat and protein. Try to choose low-fat milk and yogurt more often than cheese. So while cheese is a nutritious food, it's a good source of calcium and protein. It's also high in fat, particularly hard cheeses like cheddar. So while it's fine to choose cheese occasionally, try not to overindulge in cheese because of the high fat content, which will lead to additional calorie gain, and as well as that, it's a saturated fat which is associated with cholesterol levels, and that in turn then is associated with coronary heart disease. So serving sizes here, so 200 mils, which is a standard glass of low-fat milk, 125 grams of yogurt, and again choose natural yogurt where possible, unsweetened. If you want to add fresh fruit to it in order to sweeten it, that's fine, but flavoured yogurts tend to be high in sugar. Your hard cheese like cheddar or semi-soft cheese, which would be something like Edam, 25 grams, which is about the size of a matchbox. So again, quite small. And again, by grating it, you can make it go further. If you choose a low-fat soft cheese like brie or camembert, you can have 50 grams of that. And then cottage cheese, which is the lowest in fat, you can have 75 grams of that. Milk pudding, so something like custard or rice pudding, can also make up one of your servings, but then it's a small bowl. So we're saying again about 3 dessert spoons would be a serving of a milk pudding. The 4th shelf up then was meat, fish, eggs and alternatives. So we're saying 2 servings per day from this group, and it also includes non-animal sources of protein such as beans and nuts. This food group is a good source of fat and protein, and it's also an excellent source of B12. B12 is not generally found in plant sources of food. It can only be found in meat. We should try to include fish at least twice a week, either white or oily fish. However, if you are at higher risk of coronary heart disease, or if your cholesterol levels are high, it is recommended that you'd have oily fish twice a week. This is because the type of oil which is found in fish plus the omega-3 fatty acids are more heart healthy than oil that is found in meat, which is saturated. The servings of meat, fish, eggs, beans and nuts, 50 to 75 grams of cooked lean meat. So this would be roughly about the size of the palm of your hand or a deck of cards. 100 grams of cooked fish, 2 eggs, ideally not more than 7 a week. 125 grams of hummus, which is a dip made from chickpeas. 6 dessert spoons of peas, beans, or lentils, and these are collectively known as pulse vegetables, and they're a good source of protein. And 40 grams of nut seeds or peanut butter. Again, serving here needs to be smaller because, again, while their nuts, seeds, peanut butter are a good source of protein, they're also high in fat. The type of fat is healthy, but again, if you eat too much of it, it can lead to weight gain. The 5th shelf then contains fats and oils. So we're saying 2 servings, ideally of reduced fat spreads, and healthy oils such as olive oil or rapeseed oil. These types of foods contain essential fats, and essential fats are those type of fats that we need to take in our food. So they're only required in very small amounts, and the types we should choose are the monounsaturated fats. Olive oil and rapeseed oil are examples of this. Also polyunsaturated fats, which are found in the oily fish. We should avoid frying food, because when you fry food, you're adding additional fat to the food, which increases the calorific value. But also when we heat oil, the heat denatures the oil. So even if you choose a healthy oil to cook with, such as rapeseed oil or olive oil, when you heat it, various chemical changes take place and the oil itself becomes denatured. And as a result of that, it is less healthy for us. So choose to grill, bake, or steam your food rather than frying it. So serving sizes, as we said, these need to be very small. So a teaspoon of low-fat spread or a mini catering portion is 1 serving. Or a teaspoon of rapeseed oil or olive oil. Or if you are using an oil-based salad dressing, 2 teaspoons of that. 1 teaspoon of a low-fat mayonnaise. And butter contains saturated fat, so we need to limit this to maybe once a week. Finally, the last shelf then are foods that are high in salt, sugar, and fat. So there's no recommended serving for these types of food. These are considered to be non-essential. So if we eat them in large quantities, they can contribute towards obesity. They can also lead to coronary heart disease, diabetes, and various other metabolic diseases. So the maximum we would recommend is 1 serving per day, and ideally not every day. And a serving size would be 4 squares of chocolate. Now, dark chocolate is a little bit better than, say, milk chocolate because it contains more antioxidants than the milk chocolate would. So 4 squares of dark chocolate, or a fun size bar, a bag of low-fat crisps, a small plain cupcake or muffin. Again, try to avoid any confectionery that has lots of icing or additional cream on it. 2 plain biscuits, like a rich tea type biscuit, or 1 chocolate. A scoop of vanilla ice cream. You can also have cereal bars, but again, check the calorie content because they can vary greatly from one to another. So try to limit these to about 100 calories. So to sum up, by using the food pyramid and knowing what the recommended servings are from each of the shelves on the food pyramid, or from each of the food groups within the food pyramid, we can make better food choices, and we can also ensure that we get all of the necessary nutrients that we need in order to maintain good health.